morning. Wow. Welcome to Sunday worship at First Parish in Concord. My name is Leah Russell. I use she, her pronouns, and I am honored to serve on your governing board. First Parish is a member of the Unitarian Universalist Association of Congregations, and love is at the center of all we strive to do and all we aspire to be. Welcome to all joining here both in the sanctuary and on Zoom. If you are visiting or new to the congregation and need assistance during the service, please chat with your online Zoom host or see one of the ushers at the rear of the sanctuary. Immediately after the service, you're invited to stay for coffee hour in the parish hall, where members of the welcoming and membership team will be available to answer questions and help you get connected. And as your governing board rep this morning, I'll be available for questions and scintillating conversation as well. So please come by and say hello. First Parish is a lively congregation with many ways to get involved. Please check out the bulletin insert in the order of service for upcoming opportunities. But I do want to highlight a few things happening today. For those curious about membership or perhaps ready to sign the book, please join Reverend Jenna upstairs in the Greeley room at 11:15 after worship today for a conversation about the meaning of membership. And then at 11:45, just next door in the Emerson room, Reverend Amy and Reverend Jenna will lead a 90-minute UU 101 workshop with lunch for anyone wanting to learn more about Unitarian Universalism. After church today, you're also invited to stay for a spring lawn cleanup or join the environmental action team at 2 p.m. for a walk to Walden Pond, or at 3, you can join the Reckoning and Repair Task Force to learn more about First Parish's relationship to slavery and indigenous peoples in the colonial era. Finally, during today's service, we will be building a nature altar. And if you didn't bring a natural object, you can get one from an usher in the back during the opening hymn. They have lots of great rocks and pine cones and some really incredible seashells. So please go grab something during the opening hymn if you need it. So welcome once again. To gather in worship is a sacred act, and your presence among us is a blessing. We are glad and grateful that you are here.
Good morning. My name is Janet Rothrock, and I am the chair of the environmental team at First Parish in Concord. Before we light our chalice and settle into worship, there are 2 upcoming events that we want to tell you about. First, we invite you to our Earth Day celebration, a walk in Thoreau's footsteps at 2 p.m. today. We'll walk or carpool from First Parish to the Thoreau cabin at Walden Pond, accompanied by historians, activists, musicians, storytellers, and more. Second, next Sunday, May 3rd, at 2 p.m. here in the sanctuary, we'll host Dr. William Mumaw, a lead author of the 2007 Nobel Prize-winning Climate Report. His talk is titled, "Thoreau's Forests Confront Climate Change. Will we still have forests in 50 years, and why we should care?" Please consider joining us this Sunday and next. Finally, following Reverend Paul Langston Daly's departure last year, a social action leadership roundtable was formed. You'll find an insert in today's order of service from us describing the organizations receiving grants this year from our Social Action Fund. We hope you'll take a moment to learn about their amazing work.
And I am Reverend Jenna Crawford, the Minister of Congregational Care here at First Parish. I use she and her pronouns. The flaming chalice is the symbol of our Unitarian Universalist faith tradition. As I light the chalice this morning, please join Janet in reading our chalice lighting words as found on your screens and in your orders of service.
Spark of the Spirit, cupped in earth's embrace, light of love, alive in all creation, As we kindle this flame, we kindle our connection to the sacred web of life.
And now, as we settle into worship, we name our collective recommitment to care for the earth.
Knowing the ground we live upon is sacred.
We pledge to bring new life to the earth,
New life to the air.
new life to the waters,
New life to each other.
for all life is sacred.
Words by Euro-American UU minister Reverend Kate Walker to help us enter this holy hour of worship.
Our opening hymn this morning is at number 298 in the gray hymnals, Wake Now My Senses, and we will sing all 5 verses. Please rise in body or spirit and lend your voice in song as we sing our opening hymn.
Good morning. I'm the Reverend Amy Friedman. I use she, her pronouns, and I serve as your Director of Religious Exploration. That's my first invitation. Take a deep breath. Our bodies are animated by the air that surrounds us. My next invitation is to feel your seat on your seat or your feet on the ground. Down below us is Mother Earth, and we are held in her embrace without having to do anything about it. We're not floating away this morning. We're held here on earth. Do you really feel it? Take a moment and feel your heart beating without your having to do anything about it. Once again, we're so lucky. I like to think about the energy of that heartbeat, which connects us to the element of fire, that pulse of life within us that sends nutrients around our body through our blood. Sometimes taking a deep breath makes us feel it more. Take a moment to look at these hands. How amazing they are. All the mobility within them, how it connects us to so many creatures on earth that share some of our body structure, our connection to the fish of the sea that share some of the same anatomy as our hands, those fins. If you like, send them up skyward and stretch. And take a nourishing breath as you let your arms drop. Once again, held by the earth. We are invited today to wake all of our senses, to notice that we are connected to all of earth and her creatures, that we are not alone. We cannot survive on our own. Our minds sometimes trick us to think we are alone. But we are so not alone. We need the nutrients of all the nutrients that we eat, the air that we breathe, the water that quenches our thirst, and we need this community. I would not forget. I saw someone making sure I didn't forget. We are all connected, and today we celebrate that as part of our Earth Day celebration. Thank you.
Altar building is a spiritual practice common to many different cultures and faith traditions. Hindu families construct altars at home with flowers, incense, and idols or pictures of their deities. Ofrendas are made in many Latinx cultures for Dia de los Muertos, in which pictures of loved ones of blessed memory and sometimes morsels of their favorite food are set out in their honor. Pagan and other earth-based traditions commonly build altars too, often with objects that represent the four elements: water, earth, fire, and air. And the list goes on. Today, we are going to build an altar using the natural objects that you brought with you from home, or the ones from our supply in the back. The item that I brought today to use as my altar object is a small seashell that I found on the beach in Gloucester when our Transylvanian friends were here visiting. When I think back to that place, I can almost feel the cold sea breeze against my neck, smell the saltiness of low tide, and remember the warm feeling of being with our visitors. Many of you who read the First Parish Weekly also engaged with your senses when finding your item this week. So as you line up in preparation for the ritual in just a moment, you're invited to think back to the senses that you engaged this week. Or if you are borrowing an object from our supply, perhaps instead take a moment to feel the texture or the weight of the object in your hand. Is it spiky, sinewy, feathery, light and airy, hard and durable? For our beloved Zoom folks, you are invited to use this time to create a small altar in your own home. Alternatively, In the spirit of awakening our senses, perhaps you choose to focus on the sound of the music that Anderson will be offering. As the altar gets built and begins to take shape, take a moment to picture the variety of ecosystems that these objects came from. The variety of ecosystems that exist right here in the greater Concord area. If the altar table fills up, as it might, you can arrange non-fragile items on the wooden sides of the stairs to the chancel or at the base of the pulpit. And so as Anderson begins playing some music for us, I invite you all to line up in these two aisles, to place your object on the altar, and to begin to return to your seat when you are done. altar is so gorgeous. I think we have someone snapping a picture, so we get to document this amazing moment. There are so many different reasons that someone might build an altar: to lift up gratitude for the gift or beauty of something, to remember, to focus their intention or spiritual practice, to connect with the earth and our senses. For whichever reason you chose the object you chose, let's take a moment to witness this altar together. Both the individual object that we each contributed, if we can still find it, and the beauty when it all comes together. After this moment of engagement and noticing, Amy will share where the kids are off to next.
So today we have Little RE, which is for our preschoolers through kindergarten down in the Milldam Nursery School space. Parents and caregivers who haven't brought children down there already are welcome to do so at this time. Our youth are meeting in the chapel, which is down the hall if you would like to go to the youth service leaders. And everybody else, we're going to go outside and help to care for our First Parish grounds together. So I invite you to come on forward, and we'll leave down these stairs and right outdoors. Thank you. Let us join in song.
We are well aware that there is so much to grieve and lament and rage against when it comes to our precious planet Earth. But today, looking at this altar before us, a prayer of gratitude. Will you join me in the spirit of prayer and meditation? Thank you, leaves, for the holy alchemy you perform so humbly, converting sunlight, water, and carbon dioxide into sugars that feed the entire food web, including us. Thank you, flowers, for the gift of pollination, which spreads seeds and fruit. Thank you, stones, for the minerals and nutrients you gift our soil and our plants. Thank you, pine cones, for ensuring that there will be future generations of pine trees, and shelter for the insects and microorganisms of the forest floor. Thank you, twigs, for providing the raw material that so craftily becomes nests and dens and dams. Thank you, seashells, for the way you become homes for snails and oysters, and for stabilizing our precious coastline from erosion. Thank you, dirt. Thank you, coral. Thank you, feathers. Thank you, acorns. Thank you, forests, that these things come from, for being the places where we find the raw materials for medicine and firewood, for the gift of climate regulation, for your incredible biodiversity. Thank you to the wetlands where these things come from, for being the nurseries where so many fish and amphibians begin their life journeys, for preventing floods and purifying our waters. Thank you, meadows, where these things come from, for supporting our pollinators, for helping improve the resilience of our soil, and for maintaining ecological balance. Thank you, Earth, for against all odds providing the carbon, hydrogen, nitrogen, oxygen, phosphorus, and sulfur that we and other living creatures need, for endlessly, thanklessly circulating oxygen and carbon dioxide, for sustaining our breath, for providing us with food and water and shelter and energy and, of course, beauty. Thank you. Thank you. As a covenanted spiritual community, it matters that we share with each other the gratitude that makes our hearts sing, the sorrows that make our hearts ache, and the prayers that we'd like held and magnified by each other. And so this morning, we share with you the news that Peter Norton is recovering at home following successful brain surgery at Mass General Brigham on Monday, April 20th. Beth will be on leave from First Parish until May 4th to be with Peter in the early days of his recovery. We're really grateful to Simon for directing the choir in her absence. Peter and Beth appreciate your cards and prayers, but ask that you hold back on visits, texts, and emails during this time. And please direct any questions that you have to myself or Reverend Jennifer. And Elizabeth Ide and Greg Neiman share the joyful news that they have formally adopted their daughter. And their daughter, who likes to be called Stormy, in a brief legal ceremony followed by a small celebration last Thursday. Congratulations to the whole Ide and Neiman family. And I have one more sorrow to share from the First Parish staff team. A sorrow for the incidences of violence across our country and around the globe. From a shooting at a mall in Louisiana to a hospital in Chicago, and gunfire that went off at the hotel where the White House Correspondents' Dinner was taking place last night, along with violence that continues to unfold in places like Gaza, Iran, and Lebanon, and more. We grieve with the families of victims and those who continue living in war-torn places. What else, who else, where else is on your heart this week? As you feel moved, you're invited to type into the chat box if you are online, or share aloud quietly from the pews if you're here in the sanctuary, the names and the locations of others on your heart this week. And let us now hold a moment of loving silence for all that has been shared and for those prayers that still remain in the quiet corners of our hearts. Amen.
Hello, I'm Brad Hubbard Nelson. Happy to be here, and I really appreciate the financial support through the Share of the Plate for Mass Energize, which is the organization I've been volunteering for since we founded it 7 years ago. And Mass Energize works with about 40 communities around, about half the communities around this area of Massachusetts for helping climate action. And it's mainly through web tools, social media, a conference, campaigns that we help to run. And we think that local climate action is very important. And mainly we're supporting volunteers, and being a climate volunteer in the last year and a half is not that easy. But communities working together, supporting each other is, we feel, very important. So on Earth Day, realizing how important, how wonderful we have it, we really appreciate your support for our organization. Thank you.
Good morning. I'm Jordan Burke. Our reading this morning is a poem by late Euro-American poet David Wagner called Lost. Stand still. The trees ahead and the bushes beside you are not lost. Wherever you are is called here, and you must treat it as a powerful stranger. Must ask permission to know it and be known. The forest breathes. Listen, it answers. I have made this place around you. If you leave it, you may come back again, saying here. No two trees are the same to raven. No two branches are the same to wren. If what a tree or a bush does is lost on you, you are surely lost. Stand still. The forest knows where you are. You must let it find you. Here ends our reading.
In her book, A Field's Guide to Getting Lost, the Euro-American author and environmentalist Rebecca Solnit explores the different ways people have understood that idea of getting lost across time and culture. Most of us 21st century Americans, she posits, might consider ourselves lost after 3 or 4 turns away from the charted and familiar roads that we are used to, especially if we've left our smartphones and GPSs behind. And we would nearly certainly consider ourselves lost if during a walk in the woods we realized we had accidentally detoured from the well-worn trail. However, for Americans in the 19th century, she writes, being off course for a day or even a week wasn't a disaster for those who didn't keep a tight schedule, knew how to live off the land, how to track, how to navigate by heavenly bodies, waterways, and word of mouth in those places before they were mapped. You might be temporarily turned around, but if you had these skills and an intimate relationship with the land, you were never truly lost. David Wagoner seems to understand this too when he writes, no 2 trees are the same to raven. No 2 branches are the same to wren. Solnit goes on to explore other meanings of the word lost. Losing things, she writes, is about the familiar falling away. Getting lost is about the unfamiliar appearing. There are objects and people that disappear from your sight or knowledge or possession. You lose a bracelet, a friend, the key, but you still know where you are. Or you get lost, in which case the world has become larger than your knowledge of it. David Wagoner explores yet another meaning of the word in his poem. The forest breathes. Listen, it answers. I have made this place around you. If what a tree or a bush does is lost on you, you are surely lost. 2 years ago, during UU Ministry for Earth's World Water Day celebration, Reverend Dr. Clyde Grubbs, a local UU minister with Texas Cherokee heritage, taught the gathered body that colonialism created a rupture in the relationship between humans and nature. Subsequently, the spiritual task of the human community, he reasoned, is to restore those connections. To be sure, the forces that have conspired to cut us off from our knowledge of and sensory experience of the world around us are both many and strong. Colonialism, as Grubb teaches, is a primary one. The result of one country deciding to settle and overtake another country. And in so doing, the people who have the intimate relationship with the land are either killed, removed, or silenced. And political, economic, and cultural systems that were built for one context are superimposed onto an entirely different context. You can begin to see how this would contribute to the descendants of a settler colonialist system getting lost. And then, of course, the Industrial Revolution wrested a large proportion of workers from the agricultural fields and their home workshops into factories. And the Digital Revolution wrested a large proportion of those folks into offices with computers on every desk, culminating in 2 more degrees of separation between us and the land. What's more, the rise of capitalism and the way that our worth has become synonymous with what we can produce has cut down on the free time available to us to simply explore and wander. And the way social media encourages endless scrolling keeps us looking down at our phones rather than up at the sky, the trees, the choreography and choir of the birds. Add to all of this our cultural expectations of the neurotypical. For those who fall outside the quote-unquote norm here, we've at times received messages to tone it down, further alienating us from sensory experiences that feel true and right. And then there's those of us with trauma histories, those for whom being too in our senses is what might trigger a traumatic memory. If this is true for you, or if there are other factors that give you pause, perhaps you are actually a highly sensitive person, I encourage you to wade slowly into sensory and somatic work and to do some of the hardest parts of it with a trusted therapist or guide. While these forces exert varying influence on each of us, we are together caught in the tangled web of their persuasion. We are, in some form or another, surely lost. For many Unitarian Universalists, climate justice can easily become an exercise grounded in intellectualism and critical discourse. We read the IPCC's reports, poke holes in conservative energy policy, present arguments and counter-arguments and arguments to the counter-arguments. And to be sure, the data from climate scientists and the particulars of policy are two vital parts of the story. And yet, that our relationship with the earth is damaged is just as much a spiritual dilemma as it is anything else. And so being in right relationship with the natural world is just as much a spiritual discipline as it is anything else. To open the service, we sang the hymn, "Wake Now My Senses," written by the late Euro-American UU minister, Reverend Thomas Michelson, on the occasion of the ordination of a colleague, Reverend Charity Rowley. So primarily, it is a hymn about ministry, but in several places throughout the hymn, Michelson widens the meaning of ministry to include not just ordained ministers, but all who share our values and our call. We ought to join with anyone who quests for the true, he writes, and later, mingle my calling with all who will share. But beyond the who of who ministers, I've always been moved by the how that he suggests here. Wake now, compassion. Wake now, my conscience. Wake now, my senses. Ministry does not emerge from a mastery of biblical studies, world religions, the fundamentals of preaching, or even from the skill of pastoral care and counseling. Its starting place is the senses, Michelson argues. The deep power of being in all. Something that is available to all of us, even if not every single sense is available to all of us at all times. Dear ones, in these times in which so many of us are lost, I wonder what would happen if we coupled our advocacy and activism that is grounded as it should be in data sets and bill numbers and persuasion and policy with a rewilding of sorts, a gentle waking up of our senses. Last month, I preached on Audre Lorde's essay, "The Master's Tools Will Never Dismantle the Master's House." In a similar vein, in a nation that is lost, how can individuals who themselves may indeed be just as lost really help to rewrite the ship? What if one of the ends of our activism was a spiritual practice of getting reoriented, getting found even? That might involve learning the basics of orienteering, which is navigating trails without a map, That might involve a spiritual practice of tending the garden on Sunday afternoons or cycling on Saturday mornings. That could involve trying out the Women's Goddess Circle here at church, where they look to the wisdom of the new and full moons grounded in pagan and earth-centered practices. Or the Flower Committee, whose very spiritual practice and service to the church is bringing glimpses of the outside world into the sanctuary every single week. As Reverend Clyde Grubbs suggests, learn the names of your kin in the natural world, the flowers, trees, and animals local to where you live. And elsewhere, he says, to listen to the trees blowing in the wind or animals in the woods is itself a spiritual practice. If you liked building this altar today, set up a smaller altar somewhere in your home. Add flowers or shells or pine cones or acorns. Add pictures of ancestors or people who have been on your prayers lately. Include objects that represent the world that you long to build or an intention that you have for the week. Wake up your senses. Incorporate smelly things like lavender or sage, or something like a stone whose weight is satisfying in your hand. In fact, not only is this upcoming Friday the May Day Strong General Strike, which many of you know about, but it's also Beltane, the ancient Gaelic holiday that marks the beginning of summer and the transition into the light half of the year. For those of you who are boycotting school, work, and shopping, perhaps you might use that found time to wander, to notice the sights, smells, or sounds that characterize the gentle opening to summer here in New England, and to get lost or found, depending on how you look at it. May it be so. Blessed be, and amen. As we wind down this morning's service, please don't forget to take the item that you brought for this morning's altar home with you. Perhaps you'll use it to add to or to start an altar at home. If you used one of our objects, please leave that here with us for us to continue using in RE and other programming. And as we close, a parting thought from the 20th century Austrian poet Rainer Maria Rilke. Ah, not to be cut off, not through the slightest partition, shut out from the law of the stars. The inner, what is it, if not intensified sky hurled through with birds and deep with the winds of homecoming? Our closing hymn this morning is at number 1068 in the Teal hymnal. It's called Rising Green. Please rise in body or spirit and lend your voice in song.
Please join me in giving and receiving the traditional benediction of this congregation, as found on your screens and in orders of your service. Go out in the world and be peace. Have courage. Hold on to what is good. Return to no person evil for evil. Strengthen the faint-hearted. Support the weak. Help all suffering. Honor all beings. Please be seated to enjoy the post salute.